Westfield Memorial Hospital provides high-quality health care to residents of Western New York, offering patients the most sophisticated medical advancements while keeping the ease and familiarity of a community hospital. Support for Chautauqua Sunrise has been provided by WRFA 107.9 FM, Jamestown's public radio station, streaming online 24/7 at WRFALP.com. Low power to the people. Chautauqua Sunrise is made possible by a grant from Fredonia Place, a continuing care retirement community providing dignity in a modern luxury environment. Meter's Restaurant, a family tradition for over 50 years in downtown Ripley, is a proud supporter of Chautauqua Sunrise. Meter's provides all-day dining, banquet services, and custom catering, specializing in pie. Funding for Chautauqua Sunrise is provided in part by the Chautauqua County Industrial Development Agency, with offices in Jamestown, Dunkirk, and Westfield, helping businesses to prosper throughout Chautauqua County. From supporting people with disabilities to enjoy great lives, to providing health care services that are available to anyone, the Resource Center has been improving our county for more than 60 years. Learn more about how the Resource Center makes a positive difference in people's lives. From the Access Chautauqua Studios in Mayville, it's Chautauqua Sunrise. Chautauqua Sunrise is hosted by Doc Hamels and supported by the award-winning volunteers at Access Chautauqua. We are here to share local news, colorful interviews, and events of interest to everyone. Chautauqua Sunrise is broadcast live Saturday mornings each week from 9 to 10 a.m. Send events via email or call us live. Check us out on YouTube and Facebook. And now, from the Access Chautauqua Studios, it's Chautauqua Sunrise.
Hey everybody, good morning. I'm Doc Hamels and welcome to another edition of Chautauqua Sunrise. Hope you're doing well. I hope you got you're batting down the hatches. Boy, it's going to be a windy day today. Over on the escarpment in Ripley, I got everything tied down, put away, make sure the dog has an anchor when he goes out. It's going to be a windy day for sure. I think about 4:30 today, I heard the wind hit the house as it came right off the lake. It was pretty strong, but I guess by 1 o'clock today, it's going to be even stronger yet, which gives me a thought to remind people that if you had cell phones, probably not a bad idea to get them charged up early today. In case your power goes down, at least you'll have some way of communicating, okay? Sometimes we do lose power for 4 or 5 hours, so it's good to have those things charged up. Also, you know, garbage cans, shovels, whatever you have floating around there on the front decks or out in the yards, you might want to secure them. All of a sudden, they become projectiles. I know up in Buffalo area, they're talking about gusts up to 70 miles an hour, and, well, we haven't seen things quite that strong in a while, but even 50 miles an hour is pretty wicked. So anyway, something to think about. Hey, we are streaming live as far as I know, and I want to welcome everybody to the show around the world. I want to say good afternoon to all of my listeners on WRFA 107.9, low power to the people in Jamestown, Tuesdays at 1 o'clock. If you're not watching this live or streaming with us, we do rebroadcast this show every day at 2 and 8 on Spectrum 1301. So you can see me all week long. Let's see. I got a few things I want to share with you. Okay, enough from the Chamber of Commerce here in Chautauqua County. They have their special cards that they sell. I can't remember what it's called. They changed it. It used to be Chautauqua cards, but they've changed it. But they're cards for all the merchants in the area. You buy like this common card and you can go to various, 50, 60 different shops and use that card like a gift card. Why do I bring that up? Because we always want to remind you, if you can, please support and buy locally. There's some great shops here in the county and in the region, and they depend on all of us. So I know I do as much as I can locally, and I stop into some of my favorite shops, buy some Christmas gifts or any time of the year. And those cards are good all year round. You can use them in restaurants or whatever. So anyways, check that out. This morning we got a different crew. We have a veteran crew here that are founders of the studio way back when in the 90s. And I got Chuck Kelsey on the other side of the wall being my engineer. And I got Devin Taylor on camera. Welcome back, guys. I remember you guys when I was down at the railroad station with Reed Powers, and they were the guys doing all the work. And now we got these other guys called the Burts, and they decided they're going to go Hawaii on me. So I'm hoping they're going to give me a call this morning, because as you know, we do keep track of where we have people listening and watching around the world. And I told them they could put the pin on Hawaii when they get back. So anyways, I hope they're enjoying their vacation. And then Jeff, my main engineer, he's off somewhere, Ohio or Michigan. So I realized about a month ago, I needed some guys to help out. So thanks, guys, for coming in. I want to remind you that this is a show that you can call in, 716-753-5225. And if you want to announce a special event, a fundraiser, anniversary, a birthday, you just want to say hi, or if you have a question for my guest or a comment, give us a call. My only rule is be nice, and we'll listen in. If you watch the show and later on you say, oh, geez, I forgot to call in, you can email us at Chautauqua Sunrise, all one word, at gmail.com, and we'll be happy to get your announcement on the next show, okay? Speaking of next show, we've got some great shows lined up for the rest of the month. I just got a note from Hawaii here. They're watching. Next week we got the kiddos from Infinity. They come on here and they just do an unbelievable job, and they're going to be showcasing some of their most seasoned musicians and singers. And I'm looking forward to that. And then Christmas is on Saturday this year. And even though I thought maybe I could twist some arms, including my wife, we all decided it was best that we not be here at the station on Christmas Day, so that we want to live long and prosper. So I put together with the crew, we have a very special edition of Chautauqua Sunrise, and I call it Christmas Past. So I'm just going to leave you with that teaser, and you can watch it Christmas Day, or you can watch it throughout the week. But I think you'll enjoy it, because it's a look back of our shows over the years. Okay, and I mentioned you could call in with an announcement or whatever. Well, here's how you do it. I know it doesn't seem possible, but it's true that my wife and I have our anniversary today, and not only is it our anniversary, but it's a special one. Today we celebrate 40 years of blissful marriage. So happy anniversary. I say happy birthday. Happy anniversary, Barb. Let's go for another 40. I figure I'll only be like 110, so I think we can do that. All right, so I got some announcements from around the area, so let's see what we got. So Chuck, if you're ready, I'm ready. We got the Mayville Chautauqua Community Chamber of Commerce announces that planning has commenced for the 2022, that has a nice sound to it, 2022 Mayville Winter Festival, and they're looking forward to bringing this event back to the community. After having to cancel the 2021 Winter Festival due to an uptick in COVID cases, the Chamber's Volunteer Committee is excited to be back on track for the coming year. Among the new additions to the festival this year is a name change. To simplify the lengthy name and keep it connected to the Mayville area, the festival, formerly known as the President's Day Weekend Winter Festival, will now be known simply as the Mayville Winter Festival. Shorter is better. The committee will continue to keep its scheduled during President's Week. The dates for the 2022 festival are as follows: Friday, February 18th, with opening ceremonies and so forth, and lighting the castle and crowning the king and queen. On the 19th, there will be a cold water rescue. Randy Burt will come back and do the polar plunge. There's going to be a chili cook-off. There's going to be music by the in-crowd, fireworks, and then Sunday there's going to be a 5K Winter Fest walk and run and snowmobile rides and just all kinds of stuff. So why do I tell you this? Because they're looking for folks that maybe are interested in being vendors. You might want to mark your calendars. So if you're interested, give Serena Gilkinson a call at the Mayville Chautauqua Community Chamber at 716-269-4129. Or you can give Shannon a call, same place, 487-1101, extension 208. So that's back and we're excited. Now, this is for sci-fi fans. The Reg Linné Center for the Arts, coming up this week, December 15th at 7 p.m. A mythic and emotionally charged hero's journey tells the story of Paul, I can never say some of these names, Atreides, played by Timothy Chalamet, a brilliant and gifted young man born into great destiny beyond his understanding, who must travel to the utmost dangerous planet in the universe to ensure the future of his family and his people. Dune is a desert planet with sandworms. Have you ever seen Dune? These worms are huge. And family dynasties thousands of years old, an exclusive home of spice. What is that? It's a commodity capable of unlocking humanity's greatest potential. As malevolent forces explode into conflict over the planet's exclusive supply of the most precious resource in existence, the spice, only those who can conquer their fear will survive. Dune is rated PG-13. It's 155 minutes long. Sounds like a lot of fun in the middle of the December. Okay, and then the last film for 2021 will be a special engagement screening of the Lucy Desi-centered film Being the Ricardos on Saturday, December 18th. And this is an Aaron Sorkin film screening, and it's priced at $10 per admission. Tickets to the movies generally are $7, except for the one I just mentioned, and there's a $1 restoration fee on top of that. And you can go to the ticket office various days, from 12 to 5 on Mondays and Fridays, and Wednesdays from 12 to 8. And if you want, give them a call at 484-7070, 484-7070 for tickets. Okay, it's down on 3rd Street. It sounds like a lot of fun. So you can catch Dune or Lucy and Ricky. Okay, now, over in Asheville, one of my favorite projects is the children. It used to be called the Chautauqua County Children's Safety Village, but they just shortened it down to the Chautauqua Safety Village. And they are going to have a night of Whoville, holiday fun. And that's Tuesday, a few days from now, December 14th from 5 to 7:30 p.m. And now, if you don't know where this is, if you know where the Hughes Center is, or some people just call it the Bosey Center, it's right there. Bring the whole family and take your own picture with Santa, decorate a Christmas cookie with Mrs. Claus, scope out the North Pole Observation Station, meet the Grinch and dare to visit his lair, walk him on the floats and stationary Christmas parade, make a craft, play games, holy mackerel, try our scavenger hunt, enjoy the whole Whoville decorated village. They're going to have food and refreshments. Admission's only $5 per person, and that includes all the activities. Children under 2 are free. Consider purchasing a Safety Village family membership for this event. Members of the Safety Village can use our Fast Pass admission lane. Okay, if you purchase a 2022 Safety Village membership, this is new. I haven't heard this before. Before this event, you will get free admission to the event and you will be able to use a Fast Pass lane at admission. It sounds like Disneyland. Also, the following 2022 events are included in the membership. The Easter Carnival, summertime movie nights, running from May through September. Community Safety Day, open to the public days, Halloween Funhouse, Halloween Fun Fair, Fast Pass admission lanes, yearly cost, a family of 3 is only $55, a family of 4 is $75, family of 5 or more is $95. If you haven't been to the Safety Village, folks, you're missing a great gem here in our community, and the kids love going there. And I'm really glad to see they're doing something for the Christmas holidays called Whoville. Very, very cool. This next one is a regional announcement, and we're going to take you up to Buffalo. Now, this is kind of interesting. Buffalo's newest Christmas market has opened for the last 2 weekends. It was open last weekend and this weekend, and it's called, well, some people call it a Christkindl market, or we just call them Christmas markets, and they have various artisans and folks that are selling food products and spices and glassware and all kinds of things that are related to the holidays, and it's a great opportunity to pick up some really nice presents as well. The reason why I mention this is because sometimes, we want to get out of the area a bit, and it's going to be a lot of fun. The holiday spirit is on tap at the Hopra House in Buffalo with its first ever Christmas market. And today I got a special text that they're not going to be open because of the high winds, but it'll be open again tomorrow from 12 to 7. They have 30 local artisans, and there's handcrafted pottery to add to the list, folk art, paintings, ornaments, jewelry, a whole lot of other stuff. Now, the reason why I like to mention this, because it is a regional project, and this is being put together and benefiting the Feed More Western New York. And so I know a lot of folks this time of year, they're being, they're finding that really they're strapped for money, and we're going to have to help these folks out. So it's based on European Christmas markets. I've been to them in Germany. They're way cool. And the Hopra House is down on 190 Scott Street in Buffalo. I've been there. It's really cool. And, something to do, and you might enjoy it. All right, that ends the announcements. That's how simple it is. But I just note and heard in my earpiece that we've got a phone call. So, good morning, caller.
Hey, good morning, Dak.
Randy!
Or should I say good night?
Wait a minute. All right, where are you?
Over here. I'm sitting over here at Waikiki Beach watching the waves crash in. Just after 4 in the morning.
What a trooper! Well, I
call up.
I said to the folks that you were in Hawaii, and when you get back, you guys can put a pin in Hawaii that you're calling in from Hawaii. How's the weather?
Oh, it's beautiful.
Is it windy?
Right now it's calm. It's could be the ocean's got maybe a little over 1.
Well, I didn't catch that. Over what? Randy, you still there? Hello? Huh? Randy, we lost you. You'll have to call back. That's Randy, one of our cameramen and all-around guys that work here at the station. Randy, are you there? All right, well, if you're watching the show, you can call back and we'll catch you. All right, well, Chuck, I guess at this point we're going to go to a public service announcement, and maybe Randy can get back to us. So this PSA is for you folks, and we'll be back.
There's a shelter pet who wants to meet you. Meet one today. Visit theshelterpetproject.org. Adopt.
That's a cute one. And if you are looking for a dog, the Northern Chautauqua Canine Rescue is over in Westfield, and I'm sure they might have a pooch or two that you might be interested in adopting. They've been on the show here over the years, and we do support their efforts. Okay, I guess the Randy got cut off somehow. I'm not sure what happened there, but maybe he'll call back in later. On Chautauqua Sunrise, we've had a number of guests that were local authors, and we've had sci-fi, cozy mysteries, murder mysteries. We've had, let's see, what else? Biographies, people that have done autobiographies, just all kinds of different topics. Well, today we have someone that's a historian, and that's going to be talking about the region here in Chautauqua Lake. And I want to welcome to the show Fletcher, otherwise known as Ned Ward, and welcome to Chautauqua Sunrise.
Thanks, Doc.
You are very welcome. I was trying to figure out how in the world we even got connected, and I think we owe it all to Pat Peel. She said, "You got to have Ned on the show," and I go, "Okay." And so I think I texted you a long time, or emailed you quite a while ago. I'm usually scheduled out a few months ahead, and so I'm glad you were able to get here. How's the wind down your way?
Not bad. It was raining really hard when I left.
Hard to believe it's 57 degrees out there.
It is hard. This time of year, it's usually break out the shovels. So
Yeah, for sure.
This is a pleasure.
So the reason why I think Pat wanted you on the show, because she says that you do an unbelievably good job at grabbing and translating information into books about Chautauqua County. So, but before we get there, tell us a little bit about yourself. You said you're born locally and so on, and
Born and raised in Bemus Point. Lived there all my life, except for college, and great little community. Some really fine people down there.
So what'd you do for a living?
Well, I worked for 29 years for what used to be AVM Corporation.
Oh, the voting machines.
Well, I didn't do voting. AVM owned a lot of different divisions. I started with them at their Precision Tops division in Jamestown, just under the Brooklyn Square Bridge.
Sure.
And then moved out for a career at their Signor division in Ellicottville. And was out there quite a few years until that plant closed, and worked as their environmental health and safety man. All the compliance with state and federal regulations. So it was interesting.
Yeah, my brother, if he's watching, he a lot of times he watches up from towards Eden there. He teaches courses on all that right now. He's retired, and he goes all of these different companies and does the same thing. So, too, you probably have a lot to talk about.
No, we would.
Lockout, tag out, and all that stuff, and the masks and all that stuff. So, I always ask people this: is how'd you get involved with history? I mean, it's all around us, but I mean, most people just let it goes right by them and they don't care.
Well, it's hard not to in Bemus because there's a lot of it left, and I was fortunate enough as a child to be befriended by an old gentleman. His name was Wakefield Van Wert. He lived just north of the village. He was an old trapper, trader. His wife owned a guest house up on the northern fringe of Bemus, and he had been all over the United States hunting and fishing and guiding. And
Oh boy, but he had stories.
Oh, he had stories. He had the proverbial 2 bushel baskets of Indian arrowheads.
Oh my gosh.
He just unbelievable guy, and he would, just in speaking to him, he would enlighten you about local history. And so I took an interest fairly early on about it, and I've grown to appreciate the rich history that Chautauqua County has.
We were talking before the show. Devin's a historian. You were with the Historical Society. I'm a town historian, and can you imagine if we got everybody in the room? No. We would talk for days.
Absolutely.
And after a while, you sort of become like a walking encyclopedia. Do people do that with you? Ask you questions all the time?
Well, they do ask questions. I don't know how much of an encyclopedia I am, but I had a guy ask me, "Do you know what happened on this date?" And I thought a minute, and yeah, it was the last hanging in Chautauqua County. So, he thought he had me. Kind of an interesting thing.
Okay. So I have found, and it's interesting you mentioned it, about this Wakefield gentleman, Van Werk, you said?
Yeah.
He took you under his wing, and that's where a lot of history is somebody mentors us or says, I need somebody to keep the light, the fire, the information, because so much of it gets lost. And I think we were chatting about that a little bit. We're always looking for the next generation to step up and to say, I'll be the keeper of the information. And I am so thankful myself as town historian that there was a woman named Marie McCutcheon who did it for 25 years, and many people know her. And when I go through the files and the books and things, she was meticulous, and her fingerprints are all over information there. And when somebody says, "Do you know this?" I go, "No, but I can get to that information and give me 10 minutes, and I can cross-reference everything she had there." But now everything's digitized, everything's on our phones, everything's on the internet. But to find a hard copy these days is a rare treat.
Yes, it is.
So, so when you worked with Mr. Van Wert, what happened next?
Well, I went to college, and I actually was a student of geology when I was in college for a while.
Where'd you go?
Kent State out in Kent, Ohio. And it was kind of a tumultuous time, and
Yeah, it was.
we closed the college and really disrupted a lot of things. And I completed college actually at home. But it was a very interesting time in United States history.
Yeah. So did you take any history classes there?
I took a few, but not enough to really get into it. It was really when I got home and got into the work world and had to start digging into history of buildings and history of land around the buildings, and you start researching and finding out about it, that I really got hooked.
You know what I love is when you're sitting around talking with people, and I don't know, maybe somebody moves into the community. You say, "Oh, there's some people that have just moved in," and they'll say, "Oh, that's the old Smith house," and then somebody will say, "No, it's not. That's the old Joneses house because they were there before the Smiths."
Yeah.
And then somebody will say, "Well, that used to be a pig farm, or that used to be chickens," and after a while you start peeling back the layers, Yeah. And the one thing I find here in the States, how do I put this in a nice way? We don't seem to protect things as well as Europe does. When I'm in Europe, everything is ancient, and we look at some buildings there that go like BC, and they're still standing. And around here, if you find something that's more than 150 years old, people go, "Wow!" And I'm going, "This isn't so wow." I mean, yeah, but a lot of the things like in my own community is gone. They've been knocked down, or nobody took pictures of it, or whatever. So that's one of the things I try to do is do that. So what was the first big project you did as a historian type?
I did a small one. I did a history of the largest fish caught in Chautauqua Lake, because everybody believes it was a muskellunge, and it actually wasn't. It was what was known as a paddlefish.
Paddlefish.
And that was back in the 1890s, and that fish was 6 foot 2 inches long, and 126 pounds, if I remember correctly.
Holy mackerel.
They are a filter feeder. They have a large bill that is about a third to a half the length of the fish. And they just go through the water and slowly move that bill back and forth and siphon in water, and they have a series of serration on the bill, and that captures all the little planktons. And
Yeah. Is this sort of in the same family as the gar?
no, I don't believe they are.
Totally different family.
These are a very deep-bodied fish.
Oh boy.
They actually, New York State came to me because they were considering putting those fish back in the lake, and said, "Well, you mentioned that in one of your books that this fish had been caught, and we don't find any other records, so it must have been a lie." And I went back and found several other records of their having been caught out here. And I don't think it was because of that, but I'm sure that was part of their rationale, that they could consider it a native species and reestablish them. And today those fish are in 40 to 50 inch category out here. We don't see the numbers, and they've quit stocking them now.
So there's paddlefish in Chautauqua Lake?
There are.
Why? I fished that lake over the years. I don't think I've ever caught one.
Yeah. I've seen them. I've seen them washed up on shore. And a friend sent me a picture of one that had washed up on shore and then decomposed.
Right.
And that bill
Still there.
is still there.
So it was like flat? Or?
Very flat.
Huh.
Yeah.
That's what I love about this show. I learn something new every
So I did that, and then
Okay.
I wrote the history of the demise of the muskellunge and its reestablishment here in the hatchery system. Saving Chautauqua's muskies was my first.
Can I assume you're a fisherman?
I have been. I fish when I go south. I have to go back to your statement about taking care of buildings. We go down to an island, Seabrook Island, near Charleston, and when a building is in disrepair down there, they have to save it. You don't have a choice.
That's why
And you'll see just
parts in
the
Europe.
very front of a building all propped up with poles until they can decide what to do with it and how to resurrect it. And,
Everybody has their own feelings on these things. People probably saying, yes, knock the old thing down, get it out of here, it's an eyesore. And other people say, it's beautiful architecture, let's save it somehow, even just use it and incorporate it into a new building or whatever.
Yeah.
But everybody's got the different feelings on it. So the muskie, did you ever catch a muskie?
Many.
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 Years ago, I was just fishing down in, I think it was Burtis Bay, in a little shallow area. I was just using a little lure, and all of a sudden, something got on my line, and I looked. Thing came up like a submarine. I looked at it, I go, holy cow, it was a muskie. I couldn't land it. I mean, I just had like 6 pound test, but he just grabbed my, whatever I had on my line, and he just looked at me. I mean, it was like he looked at me.
They do.
Like that, and I'm gone. That's as close as I ever got to a muskie, but whew, I didn't have the gear or the net to pull it in or anything. Sheesh. All right, so paddlefish, muskie. So how are the muskie in Chautauqua Lake? Are they thriving?
I wouldn't say they're thriving, but they are doing all right. They continuously have, over the years, planted fewer and fewer muskellunge because today, when rearing and stocking them first started, they would hatch the eggs and immediately put them back into the lake, and they would put in 12 or 15 million.
Yeah.
And over the years, they've grown them to a larger size in the hatchery.
Okay, more like fingerlings.
More like fingerlings. So today they're 8 or 9 inches long when they are released.
Oh.
And so they only, I think 12 or 15,000 would be a big number today.
That's reasonable. I remember as a kid, my Uncle Ed, he was my dad's brother, he had muskie fever. He would always call it that. And he lived up in West Seneca, and he'd drag us down from Buffalo, and we'd go trolling out on Lake Chautauqua.
Sure.
I mean, he was just possessed to catch muskies. And I don't ever remember him catching one, but he would go out there, and he would just go weekend after weekend. He just loved being on the lake. So very cool. Okay, so then
I enjoyed writing that and had a lot of fun with it, and learned about a race that took place on the lake in 1879 between a gentleman by the name of Courtney from the mid-state New York region and another gentleman by the name of Hanlon from Toronto, Canada. And it was the second in a series of 3 races that these gentlemen held. It was enough of an event that they built bleacher seating in Mayville for around 30 to 50,000 people.
what kind of race was this?
There was 100, if I remember right, 128 betting venues going on in the village, laying off bets on the race, and the race never took place.
What was it supposed to be, like boats?
It was a sculling race, a one-man sculling race. Rowing.
Right. You have to educate me on sculling.
Sculling, a boat is typically a very long, narrow boat. They can be multiple men rowing it, but typically it's a single, these were anyway, a single man rowing shell.
Oh, so it's like what we would call crew? Like,
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
And these guys came here and stayed, trained here, rowed against steamboats and all kinds of crazy things. And actually, the night before the race was to occur, one of the gentlemen had his boat stored just down near the Institute, and people broke into the boat house it was stored in and cut two of his boats in half. So they never had the race.
Oh my gosh.
And they actually went on to race their third race in Washington, D.C. on the Potomac. And the race was big enough venue that they closed down the postal system and Congress for the day
Holy mackerel.
to watch the race.
And this was 1879?
1879.
All right, so where was I going to go with this? So then they ever had the race.
They never had it here.
So what's the name of your book?
That one is Chautauqua's Great Race. Then I went on to write about the history of the ice industry.
I've heard about that one. I think Pat told me about this. So you have to enlighten people, because I will bet a lot of people don't know this.
Well, it was a huge industry, particularly in Mayville. I started out thinking there were 3 or 4 ice houses on the lake, and I can't remember the exact number, but it was many, many, many ice houses. Probably a dozen of which still exists in some form or another. If you take the cutoff from over by the highway building on 430 over to Devin, help me, Water Street, Erie Street, it comes out. There's a house over there that is actually one of the original structures of the tower of the ice house, where the control man would sit and operate all the belts and took ice around. That is still in existence, has been modified and remodeled, and
Wow.
the lady was very nice. She let me walk through and see the whole thing. It was,
So my understanding is this was pre-electric days of refrigeration, where you could buy ice by somebody who would be coming through town that had a
Exactly.
wagon, and I think they stored it in hay or something like this, or somehow.
well, some did. The majority of it was ice on ice, and these were enormous buildings, and they would store in blocks, and they had elevators that would take those blocks to
wow.
different levels, and then men inside with short pike poles that would put them in place. And the ice houses were double walled, and that's a lot of times where the hay and straw was between the
Okay.
walls. But there was a large enough mass of ice in them that if they had a bad year and couldn't get out on the ice, they could store ice for up to 2 years.
Wow.
So it was a huge, huge industry here in Mayville in particular.
Well, I remember group of us used to rent a cottage up in Canada, and there was the old ice box, and you could see where you would put a, 2x2 chunk, or 1x1, I don't know how big it was, but you could see where it would sit in there, and then there was the drain down below, and you would whatever. And I've seen pictures, and probably you had those in your book, where they were cutting the ice, and then they somehow floated it down like a channel of some sort, I think I remember.
They would score it, and then they had a series of saws they used. And when I say a saw, it was a appearance of a saw that was drawn behind a horse or a team, and each saw would saw a little deeper into the ice.
Gotcha.
So they'd have a 4-inch, a 6-inch, an 8-inch, whatever depth the ice happened to be. They wouldn't cut all the way through it. They'd saw it into a grid, and then they'd go and take a spud and break off a long string of those blocks.
Gotcha.
and push them down a channel
Wow.
and get them just before they'd go up the elevator into the ice house. Then they'd block them off into individual
They had their
blocks.
system. Well, you know, and I suppose from year to year it would just depended on how thick the ice was, but I'm assuming 6-8 inches or deeper? Or?
It can be deeper. It can be, 12, 14 inches
Wow.
easily.
Wow. Wow, that's pretty
They
fascinating.
wouldn't typically put men out on the ice to cut until it was 4 to 6 inches.
4 to 6 inches.
Because everything was drawn by horse, and you wouldn't want the horse to go through. The horse always had a choker, and if a horse went through, they'd pull that choker, cut off its wind, and that would calm it right down, almost kill it. But
Yeah.
at least it
Slow
wouldn't.
down.
It wouldn't be thrashing around. Then they'd pull it out on a board and warm it up. But it would never go back on the ice again.
I'm done. I mentioned earlier about the ice castle, the Winter Festival, and I know they cut ice. Do they do that in a similar fashion? I know they use chainsaws and stuff now,
yeah,
but,
yeah.
but I'm assuming they make a channel and
Yep.
kind of float those blocks down.
Yeah.
So that's really kind of like a throwback to those days, right?
Absolutely is, and that's part of the reason it's being done.
So I know just from my own work that to get some of this information, this takes a little bit of time to research. So where do you get all your information?
Well, I go to museums. Devon's been kind enough to let me in and do research up there. I go to the county museum, the McClure. Do a lot online, and it's just a process of taking all those sources and sorting them and dating them and putting it together in some logical format.
I often ask people this question: how hard is it to write a book? A deep
Right,
breath.
to me, I took 3 years of Latin, and I bless Winnie Llewellyn, my Latin teacher, up and down. She taught me Latin and English, and she really made writing easy.
Okay.
Research is difficult,
Yeah.
and I was talking to Devon before the show. I'm doing a catalog piece for one of the largest duck decoy, duck and fish decoy catalog auction sales in the United States.
Wow.
And I have a lot of the information on what were fish decoys. They were likeness of a fish that was jigged up and down through the ice, and then muskellunge would be speared when they came.
Oh, okay.
So one of the gentlemen who fashioned these decoys lived in Bemus Point.
Oh, wow.
And I come up against several difficult things about the history in that he was born in 1879. I've documented that in 3 different ways, so I know that's accurate.
Right.
But the people who collect his decoys claim that they were made in like the 1890 to 1895 time frame. Presents a difficult challenge because he would have been somewhere between 11 and 16. So, this is, and ice spearing of muskellunge was outlawed in 1905.
Uh-huh.
So that only gets him up to
You got really-
26.
you just got a window in there. yeah.
So,
Okay. Let's hold that thought. We got another call. Okay. Good morning, caller.
Good morning, Doc. How are you?
I'm fine. How are you?
I'm doing good. Sitting here having a sausage and egg sandwich this morning.
Yummy.
Yes. So, what you talking about today?
We're talking with Ned Ward, and we're talking about his books that he's written on history.
Oh, nice. Yes. So, how's the show going?
The show's going well. Thank you.
Good.
Okay.
Good. Yeah, just kind of checking in, and
Jeff, where are you?
I am in Tampa.
Oh, I had you in Michigan. So all my crew is in the sunny weather.
Yes, it's sunny and 80 here. You know my saying, sunny and 80? It's actually sunny and 80 here.
Well, we're almost there. We're almost 60 here. Soon to be 30.
Yeah. Yes.
We heard from Randy for like all of 30 seconds. We lost him. I don't know where he went.
Yeah, I was texting with him about the same time, and he said, I'm going back to the hotel. I'm going back to bed.
Well, it's like 4 o'clock in the morning there.
Mm-hmm.
So,
Yeah,
all right.
in Hawaii, yes.
So what do you?
All right.
All right. Well, thanks for calling in. We glad you had a chance to get away, and appreciate all that you do here.
Yes.
All
Golf and swimming pool today.
Oh, well, we've had rain. That almost is good. Okay. You take care, Jeff. Thanks for calling in.
Yes, thank you.
Okay. Bye-bye.
Bye.
Bye. Folks, that was Jeff Zook, my main engineer, who's on vacation in Tampa.
In Tampa.
Oh,
Why not?
Why not? Ned, you have a book. You sent me a bunch of pictures. So why don't we focus on that for the next 12 and a half minutes? Because
Sure.
I don't want to lose all that because we spent so much time
Okay.
getting those pictures here.
Okay.
So what's the name of the book? What's it about? And let's talk about the pictures.
Well, the last book I did was called The Last Raft, and it details the history of the timber industry and logging industry in Chautauqua County. It's really a fascinating history, and was part of the nascence of Chautauqua County. Goes back to the very first settlers, actually the Holland land purchase.
Jim McMahon?
Yeah. And they came here for the most part from the eastern part of the state and the New England states, and they were looking for a better, richer, fuller life, easier times. They came here, and things weren't so easy.
Mm-hmm.
It was basically a pretty heavily forested area all the way around Chautauqua Lake.
Mm-hmm. On the screen right now, folks, and for those who are listening on the radio, we have a map of western New York, basically, would you say?
Yeah.
And I think the Holland group was out of Batavia. Is that true?
Well, they had an office here in Mayville, a sub-office, but their main office was in Batavia.
Yeah.
And they bought land from Robert Morris, who was a Revolutionary War financier who had purchased most of this land. He tried to get it developed by 2 other gentlemen, and they failed to make payment on it. So he offered it to the Holland Land Company, which was a syndicate of Dutch bankers.
So they were like early real estate agents.
They were. And they hired a gentleman here to do the surveying and lay out blocks of land that could be sold.
Mm-hmm.
So he came in here, brought a chain crew in, and for 2 years they surveyed not just Chautauqua County, but pretty much everything west of Rochester.
Was that the Elliots?
Exactly, Joseph Elliott.
And his brother, I think, right?
Yeah.
I know this stuff because I have to know it over in Ripley.
Oh,
and,
absolutely.
You know, they did the triangle with Erie, Pennsylvania, and New York State, and all that stuff. So there he is, Joseph Elliott. Ellicott. I said Elliott. Ellicott. Yeah.
So he surveyed it, and then he ended up being the gentleman who was in charge of sales of those lands. And he was unique in that he was rather innovative in offering people incentives to come and buy a section, and one of the incentives was they would help pay for a sawmill.
Oh.
And they knew that was a sure inroad into building up a community, because one of the first things you need to do is create a house.
Right.
And
Where you
so,
live, yeah.
once they got past the idea of chinking logs, they wanted to actually make boards to build their homes with a lot easier.
So we're talking very late 1790s, early 1800s, right?
Actually, early 18.
Right. Because I think Ellicott was in like 1794.
Yep,
and somewhere there.
1793,
Yeah,
and they started actually selling in 1801, I believe, and they would sell to wealthy people. Very often, people like the Kennedys or the Prendergast or people like that, large blocks of land, but the vast majority of them were small acreages, about 20 acres. And these people had failed, many of them, in the eastern part of the state and came here with next to nothing. So they would do what they called taking articles on a piece of land, which was essentially a mortgage,
Okay.
and would have to pay it back over time. And many, many, many of them, just couldn't raise those funds. They came here with an ox or a horse or something and a wagon and some tools, and so they started cutting lumber, and they would first cut wood for ash.
I was going to ask you about that.
Yeah.
The black ash and pearl ash, right?
Black ash or ash, pearl ash, and black salts, and,
Yeah.
and
So for people listening right now, because I've read about it, what do they use that for? Because this was real interesting.
well,
to me.
it was interesting. What in doing it, what they would do is actually they would undercut all the small brush and that, get it ready, and then cut trees that weren't usable for lumber, which were principally the hardwoods, into lengths, and then get all their neighbors together and pull them together into piles and burn them to ash. And Edson made a statement that, if you stood on a hill, you could look all the way around you and see fires burning from the ash, from these settlers actually burning out.
And they use the ash like to sell.
Well,
Right.
ash was the only product that was taken as cash, the same as cash.
That's fascinating.
So they would cut these trees down very carefully, burn them very carefully, scrape up all the ashes, and take them to an ashery. And an ashery typically would be associated with a store, and they could go into the store and actually use the ash as barter or turn it into cash, which they did to pay their indebtedness or their taxes.
And ash was used to make soaps and
Well,
various cosmetics. and
they
things.
would combine it with lard to make soap. But there was a gentleman, Walter Smith, up in the North County. I think I have an illustration of him there, who was kind of the king of the ash in Chautauqua County.
Who knew?
At a time when people were making $150, was a skilled laborer, he was making $75,000 a year
Holy mackerel! Back those days, that'd be a millionaire, I'm sure.
buying and selling ash. So his ash went either to New York City on the Erie Canal after 1825, or was shipped north to Montreal or south to Pittsburgh.
Wow.
And it was used to make glass. It was used as a substitute for baking soda. Can't really
I can't figure that out.
And it was used in medicines.
Yeah.
So it was really ubiquitous
Yeah,
almost.
everywhere. Wow.
But it was cash for these guys to pay their indebtedness.
Wow.
That was the first real use of the woods. Interestingly, what we consider the best woods today, the walnuts, the maples, the beech, the hickory, they were the ones that were trash to them because they couldn't fashion them readily.
Yeah,
They were
they're
very hard,
Yeah.
and they didn't float. So they would cut these things, burn them to ash, and do away with them. Then they could plant their crops because they had open air, open to the sky.
So the book's called The Last Raft. Why is it called that?
Well, you have to go a long way forward. Chautauqua County is uniquely, Chautauqua Lake, uniquely geographical in that it's the only body of water from the Finger Lakes over that flows south. And much of the white pine that we had here in the county was cut to the lumber and then floated in rafts south as far as New Orleans.
Holy mackerel.
And that, you could have made a story just about that.
We have about 3 minutes left, so you got some pictures of some tools and things. So you want to go through?
I
those?
do.
Yeah, let's look.
Yeah, but if you could.
Oh, what we got?
Well, that's interesting too. The hemlock was another easily cut wood here. It made up about, if I remember, 11 to 13% of the woods. They never used hemlock except for sidewalks in Jamestown. They would cut rings around the tree every 4 feet and debark it. And then that was ground up and used as for the tannin content to tan leather.
Right.
And if you notice there, they've debarked those trees, piled the bark with the bark side up, and that would be shipped south on the lumber rafts. But the tree itself was left in the woods to rot.
Oh dear. So we have some axes, I think, don't we? Some pictures?
We do.
There we go.
On the top left, as I face it, this would be typical of a European axe that was sent here. It's got a round hole for the handle. The axe is made locally here. Are on the right-hand side, a much cruder axe. It has a pole on the end opposite the cutting end. The axe on the bottom is a broad axe or a hewing axe, and then a double bit axe on the lower right. Interestingly, there were 10 axe manufacturers in Jamestown, one of the earliest and largest being C.L. Jeffords. And if you go down Buffalo Street, turn onto 2nd, go 2 streets up, that's Jefford Street. And that's where the plant was located.
Before we run out of time, because we're down about a minute, if somebody wants your book, how would they get your book?
Well, I am out of books. The publisher got married Saturday, and he's on his honeymoon. I have offered the book to the Fenton as a fundraiser. They haven't gotten back to me yet. If they don't republish it and they're as a fundraiser, which 100% of the cost would go to them, and I would help get them a grant to do that.
Nice.
I will probably republish it because there's been enough demand for it.
Okay. Ned, we've run out of time. We've covered a lot of territory here. I want to thank you for coming on the show.
Oh, I'm glad
I think
to
we're
do it.
having to do this again because we're still scratching the surface here. So, folks, you've been watching Chautauqua Sunrise. Ned Ward, historian from Bemus Point Historical Society and local author, has been my guest. Thanks again for being here. And we're going to do this all again next Saturday. So have a nice weekend, batten down the hatches, get all the dogs in, whatever, and stay warm because the temperature's going to drop. So take care. We'll see you next time. Man, we just...